Jesus. So John sufficient is sufficient of listening to the bright voice, but he is not of listening to the bridegroom's voice, I mean, but he is not he is not his bridegroom. He is not their bridegroom. Like the bride is not for him. The bride does not belong to him. So verse 31 to 36 of chapter 3. He who comes from heaven is the title. He who comes from above is greater than all. He who, he who, he who comes from above is greater than all. He who, he who is from the earth belongs to the earth and speak about earthly matters. But he who comes from heaven is above all. He tells what he has seen and heard, yet no one accepts his message. But whoever accepts his message confirms by this that God is truthful. The one whom God has sent speaks God's words because God gives him the fullness of the Spirit. So here we say, he who comes from above is greater than all. He who is from the earth belongs to the earth and speaks from earthly matters. That means what he's trying to say is that Jesus is speaking on from the ground of heaven. Like he's speaking heavenly things. He's not speaking earthly matters because he's not from this earth. He's from above. That's what it means. Then you go on to chapter 4. Jesus and the Samaritan woman. We all know the Jesus and the Samaritan woman. The Pharisees heard that Jesus was winning and baptizing more disciples than John. Actually, the truth is that Jesus didn't baptize anyone. Only his disciples did. So when Jesus heard what was being said, he left Judea and went back to Galilee. On his way there, he had to go to Samaria. And there he met the Samaritan woman who came to draw water. Jesus asked her, "Give me a drink of water." The disciple had went on to town to buy food. The woman answered, "You are a Jew, I'm a Samaritan, so how can you ask me for a drink?" Another time, Jews do not mix with Samaritans. Jesus answered, "If you only knew what God gives and who is it that is asking you for a drink, you would ask him and he would give you life-giving water." So the woman asked her, "You don't have a bucket and the well is deep. Where would you get that life-giving water? It is our ancestor Jacob that built the well." So Jesus answered, "Those who drink this water will get thirsty again, but those who drink the water that I will give them will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give them will become in them a spring, which will provide them with life-giving water and give them eternal life." The woman asked, I think she was moved by the by the answer that Jesus just, by how Jesus replied her. So she said, "Give me that water, then I will never be thirsty again, nor will I have to come here to draw water." He told her, "Go and call your husband." Jesus told her, "And come back." She answered, "I don't have a husband." So Jesus replied, "You are right when you say you don't have a husband. You have been married to 5 men, and the man you live with now is not really your husband. You have told me the truth." Then she said, "I see you are a prophet, sir." So she said that the Jews want everybody to come and worship in Jerusalem, but she worship Jesus. She worship God here. They worship God in that mountain that where Jesus was with her at the Jacob's well. He just said to her, "Believe me, woman, the time will come when people will not worship the Father either on this mountain or in Jerusalem. Like the time will come when people no more worship in those in the mountain or in Jerusalem." He now went on to say, Samaritans do not really know who they worship, but Jews know who they worship, because it's from the Jews that salvation comes. But the time is coming and is already here when the power of God's Spirit, when by the power of God's Spirit, people will worship the Father as He really is. offering him the true worship that he wants. God is spirit, and only by the power of his spirit can people worship him as he really is. So that means that you cannot worship, even if you pray and sing, you cannot worship God on your own. Like only you cannot worship God. That is not the worship that is not how to worship God as he really is. To worship him, you must God will send his spirit on you. Like I don't mean you can't worship the Lord. You can worship the Lord. You can play your music and worship the Lord, and the Lord will, that doesn't mean it won't please him. But to worship the Lord as he really is, God's spirit will the power of God's spirit on people will make people worship the Lord and worship God as he must be worshipped. That doesn't mean you are not worshiping. No, when the high time will come before God will send his spirit on you, the high time will come. And when the high time will come, you will see how deep it is. Then verse 32 about the food. Jesus, when the disciples came back, they didn't question Jesus about the Samaritan woman. So they were begging him to eat, but Jesus said, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. Jesus was talking about the revelation he had from God, which is the will of God. So Jesus said, my food is, they were confused. Jesus said, my food is to obey the will of the one who sent me and to finish the work he gave me to do. You have a saying, 4 more months and then the harvest. But I tell you, take a good look at the fields. The crops are now ripe and ready to be harvested. The one who reaps the harvest is being paid and gathers the crops for eternal life. So the one who plants and the one who reaps will be glad together. For the same is true. Someone plants, someone else reaps. I have sent you to reap a harvest in a field where you do not work. Others work there and they profit from their work. We are saying that what we receive from God is unmerited. That doesn't mean you can't have it. Unmerited favor, unmerited grace, unmerited, like if you weigh it from your actions, it doesn't match. But God is a loving and kind God. This is what it means that someone plants, someone else reaps. So he sent the disciples to harvest on a field where they do not work, where some other prophets and Jesus and God himself has worked. Okay. So we go on to verse 43, where Jesus hails an official son. Jesus starts by stating that none of you will ever believe unless you see miracles and wonders, because the the official there, the government official there wanted Jesus to come with him to heal his child before his son dies. Before his yes, he's a boy. Before his son dies, but that's why Jesus answered, "None of you will ever believe unless you see miracles and wonders." Then he now says, Sir, come with me before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed Jesus' words and went home, and immediately he arrived, his servant met him and said, your son is okay, like he's now healthy. And he asked the time and checked the time, and it was eventually the exact time that Jesus told him to go, your son is healed. So that means that you don't have to actually see God or see Jesus to receive things from him. Just believe. If you ask God for something, don't on that I always repeat, don't ask things only don't pray to God only when you need things. If you believe in the Lord, he will actually reply you. That is what it means. And you don't have to actually see him